All right, today we're going to open up the Prediction Detectives Toolkit and pull out one of the most powerful tools there is, linear regression. It sounds complicated, but really, it's just a way to use the information we have right now to make some really smart guesses about the future. So, let's dive in. Okay, imagine you're running a business. There's probably one question that's always on your mind. How much are we going to sell, right? And getting that answer isn't just about being curious. It's about making plans, it's about growth, it's about survival. That's the big mystery we're going to solve today. So, let's get specific. Picture an online retailer, okay? They sell mobile phones, tablets, that kind of thing. And they're sitting on this absolute mountain of data. They just know the secret to boosting their sales is buried in there somewhere. The question is, where do you even start looking?
And here's the thing, they've actually got two goals. First, they want to forecast sales so they can set some realistic targets. But the second goal, and this is the really exciting part, is they want to find the levers, the things they can actually change, like how much they spend on ads, to actively push those sales numbers higher. This isn't just about predicting the future, it's about changing it.
This is where we put on our detective hats. Seriously, when a detective shows up at a crime scene, they don't just know who did it. They start small. They look for clues, for connections, for relationships between things. And in the world of data, we do the exact same thing.
So in our little story here, we've got two main characters. On one side, you have the predictor variable. Think of this as the cause or the input. For our store, a great example is how much money they spend on advertising. And on the other side, you've got the response variable. That's the effect, the outcome you're trying to predict. In this case, sales. The whole game is just figuring out how one affects the other.
And the very first clue a data detective usually finds is something called correlation. It's just a single number, but it's an incredibly powerful clue. It tells you two things: if two things are connected and how they're connected. It's that first sign that tells you, hey, you're on the right track.
So what do I mean by how they're connected? Well, a positive correlation means that as one thing goes up, the other one tends to go up too. You spend more on ads, you get more sales. Simple. A negative correlation is just the opposite. As one thing goes up, the other tends to go down. Understanding which way the clue is pointing is absolutely crucial.
Now, correlation is measured on this scale from -1 to +1. So if our detective crunches the numbers and finds a correlation of plus 0.9 between advertising and sales, whoa, that is a huge discovery. That's a super strong clue that these two things are moving together, almost in lockstep. The relationship is really, really strong.
Okay, so we found a strong clue. That's great. But a clue by itself doesn't solve the case, right? It doesn't give us an actual prediction. For that, we need a tool. We need to build our own little prediction machine. And that machine is going to run on a simple formula. And here it is. Now, don't let the letters and numbers scare you off. It's simpler than it looks. We're not using abstract Y's and X's here. We're making it real. All this says is that we can predict our sales by starting with some baseline number and then adding in the specific effect of our advertising. That's it. Let's break that down. Step 1. You start with the intercept. That's just your baseline. You can think of it as what your sales would be if you spent $0 on ads. Step 2. You add the slope. Now this is the magic number. It tells you exactly how much punch your advertising packs. You just multiply that by how much you spent, add it to the baseline, and boom. Step 3. You've got your sales prediction.
Okay, so having the formula is one thing, but it's pretty useless if we don't know what the numbers inside are actually telling us. The real power, the real magic, comes from decoding these numbers. This is where we find those levers we can pull.
So get this. If our model tells us that the slope, that magic number, is 2.45, it gives us this incredible piece of business intelligence. In plain English, it's telling us this: for every single dollar we spend on advertising, we can expect to get $2.45 back in sales. Now that is an actionable insight. That's a lever we can pull with a lot of confidence. But hang on, that's a great question, right? You could draw a million different lines through all our data points. So how do we know that a slope of 2.45 is the right one? How do we find that one single formula that gives us the most accurate predictions possible? Well, the answer is actually pretty elegant. The best line is simply the one that makes the smallest mistakes. You measure the gap between what your line predicted and what sales actually were for every single past sale. And the line that has the smallest total error, the one that's the least wrong overall, that's your winner. That's our best fit line.
And this detectives tool isn't just for some imaginary online retailer. Not even close. It is used everywhere, across tons of industries, to solve some of their biggest, most important problems.
In retail, they use it to forecast how much a customer might be worth over their entire lifetime. In healthcare, it can predict how long a patient might need to stay in the hospital, which helps manage resources. Banks use it to set credit card limits. Energy companies even use it to guess how much power they'll get from wind turbines or solar panels. The applications are just massive.
So look, if you take just one thing away today, let it be this. Linear regression is really just this elegant process of finding a relationship that's hiding in your data and then turning that relationship into a real concrete prediction you can actually use to make decisions.
And that kind of leaves us with one last question. Think about your own world, your work, your hobbies. Is there a relationship between two things where, if you just understood it a little better, you could predict something really important? What's the one relationship in your world you'd want to be able to predict? Something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.